All right, it is Friday night.
It's Friday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just finished racing home from work on my bike, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to get home. We got to get this podcast on time tonight." But it's uphill coming home, and and so it's a little bit more of a challenge. I usually can make it home in about an hour and 5 hour and 10 minutes. I did it in an hour and four,
Yeah,
so I was like, "Okay,
that's
that's not
good.
so bad." And I was just praying, like, "Don't get a flat tire today,"
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. I know, I know, I know. When I get an urgent meeting, I know, or critical meeting, I know I leave early just in case I do have to deal with a flat tire. But it is what it is. So
But it's so funny. I'm like, this would be this would be the most understandable group ever. Like, oh, hey, we're late because Ted got a flat tire
I know,
commuting home from work on his bike.
and I have had that happen. But okay, so which bike were you riding?
I was riding my old time trial bike.
And how is the new time trial bike, or is the new
So
time trial bike becoming the old bike?
this is an interesting one, right? Like the new time trial bike is we're calling it a work of love, and it's so interesting. Like, and we've talked about this before. When you build your own bike, it's so different because like I'll do everything to make it perfect right now,
Yeah.
right? It's like, and I'm fitting the bottom bracket in. I actually was using an older bottom bracket and yeah, bottom bracket, and
Mhm.
I got it in and it just wasn't spinning perfect. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
like, it's got to be perfect. So
Yeah.
I took it all apart, took the bearing seals off, put it in degreaser, put it in my ultrasonic cleaner, put it in for like a half hour in the ultrasonic cleaner. Then I, put it in acetone,
Yeah.
got it in an air compressor, completely dried it up. Oh, okay, and then grease it, pat
Yeah.
up the grease. Oh, it's still not perfect.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? It's so interesting when you're building your own bike from
Oh,
scratch. Like, you want it perfect.
the details, the
The
details.
the little details. I mean, honestly, that bottom bracket probably, I think I took it apart like 3 times
Yeah.
last week. And every time it's like it's like a 45, 50 minute
Yeah. Right.
thing. And fortunately I have a press, I have a bearing press. And so it's not terrible
Yeah.
um to do, but and then just getting the tension exactly
That's
right.
right. You got to get it just right. Otherwise, you're going to get the creaking and
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I gotta be honest with you, I've probably put, just in building it in the garage, at least 20 hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um last weekend, oh my gosh. So the new Shimano Di2, the 12 speed,
Mm-hmm.
has a battery with 3 plugs. I don't know if you know this.
No.
So there's the one plug or one wire comes from the front of the bike. One comes from the rear derailleur, one comes from the front derailleur. So
Okay.
all three plug in to like a triangle, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, that does away with the junction box, so that's nice.
Exactly. So the junction box is now in the battery, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a win.
Yeah.
So I get it all, finally I get the bottom bracket and I get everything together. I'm like, okay, let's get the Di2 tested. It was all wired in. And so I plugged in the rear derailleur. I'm like, okay, here we go. Nothing. I'm like, what? Everything's plugged in. I've checked every wire. I even used like the Di2, the special tool.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're good. I don't use that at all.
I know, right? But on the new ones, they're actually smaller. The
Okay.
plugs are a little bit smaller. So I rechecked everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, nothing, dead. I'm like, did I get a dud battery?
Oh no.
Right? That's the only thing I
Yeah.
can think of at this point, because I like literally rechecked everything. And when I plugged it in, the eTube software would see it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it wasn't plugged in, it wouldn't see it. So I'm like, okay, it has to be either a wire going to the battery or the battery.
Yep.
Right. So then I like, okay, let's switch the wires around. So I switched the wires around, same thing. I'm like, okay, so the wires are good. It's
Mm-hmm.
had to be the battery. So I'm like, okay, I've been putting too much time into this
Yeah.
bike.
Right.
So
Right.
I go to the first bike shop. I'm like, hey, do you happen to have this battery? Oh no, we can only get that battery in if you buy the full group set. I'm like, well, I
Mm.
can't buy the full group set
Oh
again.
boy.
They're like, it's back ordered till January.
Oh.
I go to the next bike shop.
Yeah.
No, let me look. Oh, maybe we'll have it in December. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to ride this bike tomorrow.
Uh, yeah.
Go to the third bike shop.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm like, oh gosh. Because I was like, I literally was thinking I was going to ride it the next day. So I go back home and I'm like, man, what is wrong with this? Like, I look online, like, okay, I can order a battery, $184.
You got one button you got to push.
No, well,
No?
here's the thing. They don't tell you this in the manual.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I read the manual back and forth, but then I finally went onto like a troubleshooting website, and they said the setup that I have, if it's the time trial setup, you have to put the wire from the derailleur, the rear derailleur has got to go into the center plug.
Ah, okay. There you go.
That's all it was. Just push the wires around. I mean, just running around took me 2 hours.
Yeah, right. Well,
Right.
it's funny you tell that story because I was quickly thinking back to when I did my build. I had a battery, what I thought was a battery problem, and I did the same thing. I went through what I thought was all the debugging steps, and I did the same thing. I went to the bike shops asking for a battery, and was able to buy one, and I brought that battery home, and it was the same problem.
that wasn't the problem.
So it wasn't the battery, and there was literally a button I needed to push in order to get it to operate.
Oh.
So it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, like I said, it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
And, like I'm really excited to have it like put together, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping, like I said, I'm hoping to ride on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's just like this sense of accomplishment. I know you felt that before when you build a bike from a frame set
Mm-hmm.
and you did it yourself. There's like, I don't know, it's kind of like training for a race and then
Mhm.
doing well in the race. Like
Yeah.
there's a sense of accomplishment there.
No,
So-
very much so. And I remember one time I posted, I did a bike build and someone said, "Oh, you built it from, you built your carbon frame?" I said, no. I just about to put it together. But that was a big deal, and it is a big accomplishment. It's not as simple, or maybe it is, and they were just not.
It's
But
not that simple if you don't do it all the time.
it's not like everything comes in a single package, because that's what you're doing. You're buying the frame from one place, you're buying the gear set from another place, you're buying the bottom bracket from another place, and these things all need to come together. And you got to have all the right tools. If you don't have the right tools, it makes it extremely hard.
Yeah. I bought a few tools along the way, and yeah, it's I don't know. It's still it's a good sense of accomplishment. It's not done yet, so maybe I shouldn't say it's a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
I
It
literally
will be.
I just got two things left to do. I've got to put the rear derailleur cage on. So I'm putting an overspeed cage on, and a chain,
Mm-hmm.
and then the pedals. And
Okay.
that's all that's left. But then of course, they're power meter pedals, and I've never used them before. So I'm sure
Okay.
that'll take an hour to get synced up, or
Yeah. Which
they'll-
ones did you go with?
I went with the Garmin,
Okay.
the Garmin
Mhm.
Rally pedals. I really decided, I've never had power meter pedals before. I've always went with the crank based.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, what? I can get the exact crank I want.
Yeah.
And then the pedals, it's just nice to have. Like,
I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
And they're
Especially-
getting to a point where they're reliable.
Yep.
They're going to hold up over time. I mean, the early models were a little sketchy, and you didn't know how many miles you'd even get out of them. So I think it's changed. So that's good.
and then I've traveled and I've rented bikes before.
Mhm.
Now I can bring my own pedals.
Yeah,
And
right.
I'll have the exact same measurement. I'll know, the power is
Yeah.
the same. And so, I think that it's kind of a win-win,
That's good.
going with the pedals. So yeah, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm excited. We'll see. Maybe I won't ride this weekend, but I'm signed up to race next weekend,
Okay.
Las Vegas Triathlon.
Hmm.
And so I'd really like to ride on the new bike,
Yeah.
because this will be the anniversary of my first ever triathlon,
Oh, wow.
because Las Vegas Triathlon was my first one. And so
Yeah.
this will be the anniversary. What a great place to crack out the new bike.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Which distance did you do first, and which would you do this time?
It's sprint and sprint.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I have to do the sprint because I'm doing the Nevada Senior Games.
There you go.
Sprint distance. Yeah, I know. It really was awesome when I signed up, and I'm like, oh, Senior Games. Yeah. All right,
I
Senior
know.
Games.
How about that?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's kind of odd that it's 50, but then again, I'm like, how many years can you really do triathlon for?
That's right. That's right. Well, unfortunately, I won't be doing it either. That would have been
Yeah.
fun to race on and get into the senior games that way. But
Yeah, it is. It's well, I mean, you are going to Hawaii, so it's not
yeah,
like,
so it's not that bad.
nobody's playing the violin for you
Yeah.
because you're going to go to Hawaii. Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of races, you raced last weekend, and a bunch of people that I know that watch the program,
Yeah.
watch our show here and listen to us. They raced last weekend. Let's have a little synopsis of how was the
Oh,
day up there.
it was a beautiful weekend, and
Well, I guess we should say where it was. We're talking about
oh, we were up at
Kokopelli.
yep, we did Kokopelli, BBSC's race, and Kokopelli offers the sprint distance and the Olympic distance, and I did choose to do the sprint. And it's in St. George, Sand Hollow State Park, and the reservoir there. At first, we were, people were saying, well, maybe it's going to be too warm for wetsuits, and so you did have to go up prepared to go non-wetsuit, and they were really going to make a race day call. I went up there and I camped out, Site 13, which was always nice. It's close enough to the campground restrooms that's easy, and close enough to just walk over to transition. So it's actually pretty neat. And like I said, weather was beautiful, and the
What
water
was
did.
what was the water temperature?
It did. I didn't get the exact water temp what they measured. The day before they said it was like 78 point something,
Oh, okay.
and so yeah, it was for a sprint, it was fine. I didn't mind it. It was if you're going to do a long swim in a wetsuit, you know, that would have been a little tougher. But funny thing is, the research that we've done, when you swim in warmer water in a wetsuit, your core temp doesn't actually go up. In terms of what we did so far in the pool, we actually need to replicate this outside, do it again outside, and see if something changes. But one of the things that we think was going on is your brain starts to sense when you're getting too hot, and so you just end up slowing down a little bit while swimming in a wetsuit. You probably still swim faster than if you're not in a wetsuit, but you won't swim as fast if you're in a wetsuit in cooler temperature. So
Do you think
but
it's more like just your skin is getting hot rather than your core? Because
it
you're
could
actually
be. Yeah, it could. Well, that, yes, that for sure. And in fact, actually, I just got some skin sensors I'm going to put inside the wetsuit, and we're going to do that type of work next as well, because I think you're right. That's what you're probably sensing more so than changes in core temp. It's really hard to change your core temp anyhow, and especially in a short event. And the work we did, they were swimming only about 10 minutes, so that just may not have been long enough to really impact or to let core temperature change. So, but anyways, race day was beautiful. We didn't really have much wind to deal with. Temperature was nice. Water temp, like I said, was great. Yeah, and so it was just real fun to get out there and hammer away. And I was able to trade places with another athlete, Jeff. He and I are pretty close to each other in terms of ability, and came out of the water almost the same. I was a little bit out of front of him coming out of the water, but he ran to the mat before I did uphill. It's not going to help me there. But then we were back and forth with each other on the bike. He'd pass me on the uphill, and I'd catch him on the flats, and that's fun. That's racing. We're going back and forth, and
yeah, that's so fun.
we both know each other, and we know our abilities, and it was just it was enjoyable. We actually encouraged each other as we went along, as opposed to any antagonistic type of racing. It was just good to really push each other. And then I did have a lead on the run on him. Came off in third place, and then he had me in his sights, and he caught me by the turnaround right before the turnaround, and we ran for a bit together. But my running's just not there, and he was able to run away from me, and kudos to him. That was great. But again, we were, running shoulder to shoulder, and just encouraging, and trying to push each other. And, that's so much fun. It really, really enjoyed it. Across the finish line, and, felt great that, what I was able to do that day. Of course, you sit there and you say, if I did this, if I ran a little faster, if I trained a little bit more.
If
But you
only
can't do that.
if only I ran faster. How many times have we said
Yeah,
that?
right, right. but it was just, it was fun. And I walked away with that with just a really good feeling and, inspired to really continue to work back to my fitness. And, and so it was really, it served its purpose. And so I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Oh, that's so great. And that's one of my favorite venues.
Yeah, it is.
I'm really looking forward to going up there. I think it's 5 weeks till the 70.3 Worlds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually concerned that it's going to be cold.
It could be, our
End of October
fall.
up there.
It could, when Silverman was here in November, I mean, you could have a blistering hot day. That was not as likely, but you could have a really cold day in
Especially
November.
early in the morning.
That's right. Right.
'Cause it's higher altitude too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I think we could get out of the water and it could be in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I think the water, I can almost guarantee it'll be wetsuit legal,
Yeah.
but I think,
You've done Sand Hollow as well, and Sand
yeah,
Hollow
many
in the
times.
spring,
Yeah.
and boy,
It's
you can
cold.
get really cold coming out of the water there. So, I think going down to Willow Beach and swimming down the Colorado River is probably a good way to prep for that race.
I think what I'll do is I'll go to the UNLV football complex where they have the cold tubs.
Okay.
Put my wetsuit on and go sit in there.
Yeah.
Easier than going down to Willow Beach.
Oh, that's good. Well, it's funny. We had such a great conversation with Mark Allen earlier this
Yeah.
week, and I really enjoyed not only just all his insights and from a coach or as an athlete, but I enjoyed some of his stories about racing.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, and the one story he told where, he ultimately wasn't able to win the race. He was, Dave Scott called him but it was motivating. It was neat. And I remember, that was back in '87 and that's, you watch that but to hear him talk about it was really neat. And to hear him talk about that type of event, then motivating him to go on and ultimately win Ironman Kona 6 times. But it did take. He said it hurt, and you could see that. You could see
See it
it.
in his eyes even when he's talking about it, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the memories of that, and the story that kind of resonated with me is the one where he was going to quit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
or
Yeah.
he literally stopped and it's like, no, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all felt that
Mm-hmm.
at one point or another. It's like, why? Like, this is not going my way today. And the fact that he turns it around and correct me if I'm wrong, he still won that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, to me, like, that kind of like sent some chills down my spine, because there's been many times that I felt like just stopping.
Well, and he has DNF 6 times.
Yeah.
And so it happens at that level. And I think far too often people do, scoff at, did not finish, but you can use them as ammo to keep going and really try to figure out what's going on. And it sounded like even with him, he wanted to get that distance right, and he just wasn't able to.
Yeah. No, I think it's so true. And I don't know what it is about us as humans and the DNF,
Yeah.
and how it destroys people or can
Yeah.
destroy people. And then some people, it completely motivates them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what is the difference psychologically between those two things? And maybe it's the reason behind the DNF. Like, it might be easier to DNF if you, I don't know, had 2 flat tires and didn't have, like, eventually just didn't have any
Yeah.
ability to actually finish. Maybe that's easier
Right.
than if you cramp up and you just can't go, and your body let you down rather than
Mm-hmm.
something more external let you down.
Mm-hmm.
You and I both have DNF'd,
Yeah.
and we both had a lot of success in triathlon, and we both had low points in
Mm-hmm.
triathlon, and it was really nice, not nice, but it's interesting to hear that someone who's won Ironman 6 times,
Mm-hmm. The greatest of all time,
the greatest long distance racer of all time,
Yeah.
went through that as well. It was really interesting. The other big takeaway that I took, and I've already talked to a few people about this, is how resilient he was
Mm-hmm.
getting injured.
Yeah.
And I do think this is a really interesting topic, and it's something that maybe we should talk about down the road. But there is a genetic, there are some genetic polymorphisms, or for elite athletes, right?
Yeah.
We do know that elite athletes recover faster, and it's one of the reasons they can become elite,
Mhm.
right? For anybody that watches cycling, that's supposedly Pogacar's thing, is he can recover faster or better than almost anyone else,
Mhm.
and ultimately can put in more work without getting injured. And it is a hallmark of elite athletes.
Mhm.
And it's not something you can train. It's not something that you can, have nutrition or have whatever. If you don't have that genetic predisposition, so we've talked a little bit about this before, like some of the genetics are like being able to lay down more collagen,
Mhm.
basically recovering your tendons and muscles recovering quicker on a genetic level.
Yeah.
Some of us have it and some of us don't,
Right.
right? And recognizing where you're at with that, I think, is really important, right?
Mhm.
And and we've talked about this before, like some people need more recovery.
Yeah.
Some people can do 3 or 4 intense sessions a week and they're fine. Like they recovered just fine. Some people 2 a week is all they can do.
Yeah.
And I think we need to recognize that, not just, oh, well, he must have been, and I'm not taking anything away from him. He's obviously a brilliant guy.
Mhm.
But I think for him or many pro athletes, it's not a luck thing.
Mhm.
It's not, they just were so smart and did everything just perfect.
Right.
It probably is genetics that go into this.
Well, yeah, totally. Everything on one hand, everything's genetic, right?
Yeah.
And pick your parents if you want,
Exactly.
an elite athlete. But the other part that I really think he was able to do, which was so innovative and against the grain, was to train easy
Yeah.
and train in a sustainable way. And I loved hearing him talk about that. He was like, if I'm not training today, I'm not getting faster. And so and this is, the mantra I've had is I want to train as hard as I can today so I can train again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Meaning I don't want to go to that edge and then have to take tomorrow off. And I really heard him talking about that. But back in the day, back in the 80s, because, I was racing, training back then, obviously not at that level. And the stories that were going around about so and so is biking 300 miles a week right now, and so is doing 20-mile repeat intervals on the track, and these crazy training sessions. And again, we don't have social media back then, and so everything was delayed, in terms of when you would get that information. But I could see a professional triathlete saying they need to now chase what that other person is doing or maybe doing. And so he was able to put all that aside and really develop his own training program, which was really based upon this idea of zone 2 training, 80-20 rule or whatever we want to call it. But the predominant amount of training he was doing was very easy, light training.
Well, it's interesting because Mark Allen followed that philosophy too, right?
You mean Dave Scott
or Dave Scott, sorry,
Yeah.
Dave Scott.
Yeah.
And they end up being like the first two that kind of did this.
Yeah.
And and we've talked about zone 2 a lot, and we talked about aerobic training, and he mentioned it a lot.
Yeah.
You have to build the aerobic system
And be in it for the long haul,
Yep.
not a quick fix.
And and I think that oftentimes triathletes get inundated with cycling literature,
Mm-hmm.
but cycling and triathlon are so different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you want to be a cyclist that's racing bicycles, you have to be able to go hard as you can for 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
or go hard as you can for 20 minutes. So you ride for 4 hours, and then you've got to be able to go 20 minutes as hard as you can, or be able to sprint at the end of a race for 1 minute at 1,000 watts.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, you need to train those energy systems to do that. If you're doing triathlon, even short course, that's not what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? You really are an aerobic machine.
Yeah.
And I think we really get caught up, or what I see in the literature for triathletes is really get caught up on too much of the high intensity stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what cycling coaches do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a, and even the running coaches do this.
Well, and the swimming coaches too.
Well, the swimming coaches are the worst. Let's just we'll just start with that. The swimming coaches are the absolute worst, but they come from a background of training people to do 50s, 100s, and 200s.
That's right.
Right? Or maybe they're a distance coach and they do a mile, but it's a
Mhm.
13-minute race, or was it 13 or 14 minutes for a mile for elite?
Yeah. 1650. Yeah.
That's not what we're
Mhm.
doing. You know,
1650 yards. Yeah.
we're doing at sprint racing, the very fastest people are right around an hour.
Yeah.
Right? And we've talked about this before. Well, last time I looked at an exercise physiology book, when you're going an hour, that's an aerobic thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And building that aerobic engine, and I think that that's what he did so well,
Yeah.
is he concentrated on building the aerobic engine. And you're right, maybe that's why he didn't get injured as much, is because,
Right.
and he even said he didn't put a lot of stock into like fast running.
That's right. That's right. And I think that's where his resilience really built up, and his durability was from these sessions that were manageable. And and what you're also speaking to is the race dynamics or the tactics that happens, that if you are racing someone, you do have to be able to respond to a surge. I listened to one of the videos, Justin Reale, who talked about some of his racing and how he had to put out 400 watts for X period of time. Well, now you've got to recover from that because you can't sustain that, and so you do need to have some, if you're racing that type of tactics,
Yeah.
or if your race course has that type of punchy, rolling hills either on the bike or on the run, you have to be able to manage that. But really, I really liked his message of consistent training is going to be your injury-free training. You want to stay away from injuries. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to train.
And nothing reduces your fitness more than not.
Not training. That's right.
You know,
And that's the way to get faster is.
it
And
absolutely is.
Bob does right here. He was pushing the limits, and this is a good point that Bob raises. I'm conflicted with ride with information that may be contradictory. Ride with people faster than you who push you versus easy zone to develop your aerobic engine. It's interesting because we did spend some time talking about that, and I think this is a really good point, that there's a right place for group training and for surrounding yourself with people who are going to push you. That's that training for that surge. That's training for that higher intensity. But the majority of your training should not be that way because it's not sustainable.
Yeah. Well, like you said, like if that riding with people that are faster than you makes it so you can't ride the next day,
Yeah.
then you're losing,
Right.
Mhm. And we've talked about this before. You and I are kind of lone wolves with our training.
Mm-hmm.
We rarely train with anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of freeing, right? Like I can go and do zone 2 all day long, and I don't, no one judges me. Nobody.
Yeah.
It's just myself, and I've never really felt the need ever to train with people faster than me ever.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, right. And on the flip side, I know if I'm going to go run with the run group on Thursday, I know that's going to be my hard day.
But which is perfect, right?
That's right. And
like you said, you can have that hard day.
But I can't do that. If I do it Thursday, I can't do that again on Friday. I definitely can't do it on Wednesday and prep for that. So you've got to choose your spots, if you will, for when you surround yourself with faster people. And that's why it's fun to go to races, because you're
that's riding with people that are faster than you. Yeah.
You go faster in a race than you will in training. So.
And I guess in swimming, sometimes for me, like I'll swim harder in practice if there's somebody in my lane that's a little faster than me.
Yeah.
But then I regret it.
Yeah.
No, seriously, because it's like I go into with this mindset of, okay, today is going to be an aerobic day.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's like, I get to the end of that 200 and I'm I'm breathing so hard. I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
That's right.
maybe that's just in me, and one of the reasons I don't like to train with people faster than me, because I'll go too hard,
Yeah.
right?
I,
And because I'm competitive.
no, totally. I think that's part of smart training is knowing what you're doing in your training session and you need to do that.
Yeah.
And, don't go into someone else's training program because they're training, they may be in a different spot than you are. They may be doing something different on that day than what you're doing. And, yeah, do I use it, if I'm swimming and someone's swimming next to me and it seems about the same pace, do I, yeah, that's fine, that's good, but at the same time, it's a decision in terms of what am I doing, what am I here for, and what am I doing? And, can I go a little bit faster? Can I hold this pace a little longer? Uh, but again, train your intensity that you can train today so you can train again tomorrow.
No, it's so true. Just another anecdote. On Tuesday, this Tuesday, I got to swim practice, and I was beat. I had a pretty rough weekend of training, a lot of training on the weekend. Trained on Monday, rode my bike on Tuesday pretty hard in the morning. Not hard, just yeah, a little bit hard.
Yeah,
I got to swim practice and I was dead. And
yeah, yeah.
I told the people I was swimming, I was like, hey, like I'm tired tonight. Like I want to get the yards in.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people that normally wouldn't be lapping me,
Yeah, yeah,
and I let them lap me.
yeah. Great.
What
That's
does
fine.
it matter? It's for it. This is for me, right? And the idea is that so tomorrow on my run's still going to be quality,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm not going to bury myself. And then, because once again, I swim at night, and we talked about, even with Mark, cortisol, right? And stress response. And
Yep.
could I have dug deep and kept with them? Absolutely, I could have. But then what would tomorrow look like?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and you always have to think about that when you're like, I can go a little bit harder. Yeah,
Yep.
you can, but should you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and Bob just wrote a comment right before you told that story. Bob wrote, I rode really hard yesterday and quit my swim workout today after 750 yards because I was too tired. So it's just exact same story that you're telling. And there are a couple things that you can take from that. One is good job. That's a smart decision. If you don't feel you're getting anything out of that swim workout, don't keep doing it because all you're going to do is dig yourself a deeper hole. But you recognize that the intensity you had the day before was impacting what you're doing today. So now the next time you do that hard bike ride, either plan knowing that your next day is going to be hard, and maybe you don't, maybe you try to do 500 yards, 750, or you swim in just a way that you're just going there to really recover from your bike ride. And so, yeah, that's a good lesson. It's a good story.
And if we think of the physiology behind the building aerobic, and we've talked about this before, but I think it's good to talk about it again, is and we look at a 5-zone model, and I think everyone here pretty much knows what a 5-zone model is. But when you're training in zone 2, high zone 2 or zone 2, and low zone 3, aerobically, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening in your heart, your lungs, your capillaries, your mitochondria, there is no difference. The only difference is in the stress hormones,
Right.
and in the damage you're going to do to your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So you're better off to be middle of zone 2, in my opinion, than low zone 3. Because once again, the next day you're going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no benefit because it felt harder.
Yep.
Doesn't mean you got any more out of it. And as humans, we often, oh, no pain, no gain.
Yeah, right.
That's not true when you're talking about the aerobic adaptations that happen. And it takes such discipline to go low mid zone 2. The other thing that I think is really interesting is, and this is in the literature as well, with athletes, a lot of times you say, okay, well, we're going to go zone 2. Okay, well, what's the top of my zone 2?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's zone 2, it doesn't matter if there's a top or bottom, just be in it.
Yeah,
right. It's the same adaptation. So if you're zone 2, let's say it's 125 to 140.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, there's no difference in the adaptation aerobically if you do 125 or you do 140. But so many athletes I know and things I read, they're going to do 139.
Right.
Right. say, I'm gonna hold that 139. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
why? Because you're because it's gonna feel harder,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to put out more stress and you're going to do more damage to your muscles, and then tomorrow you're not going to be able to do what you need to do. So I think that's, these are all important lessons, but it takes discipline.
I hit my mute button there. Yeah, you're spot on. And then going back to what we talked about with Mark was he kept coming back to the enjoyment
Yeah.
of training, the enjoyment of racing. And if you're not enjoying it, your plan isn't where it needs to be. Yes, there are days where you go out and it's a struggle. And there are days where you do sort of, fight that battle with yourself mentally and sometimes physically. And sometimes you do have to, yeah, it's not easy. But in the vast majority of the training session should be enjoyable. And whatever that enjoyable means, sometimes it does mean going hard, and sometimes it means staying in zone two as long as you can, and just being really just effective and efficient with your training.
So I talked to two athletes this week, and both of them professed to me how they hated swimming.
And they're your athletes, right?
And so, well, what can we do to make you not hate swimming? I said, how about this? How about every swim you do for the next month, you do with fins on? Would that be more fun?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's swim with fins on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or do you like pulling? Yeah, I like it when I do have a pull buoy. Okay, swim with a pull buoy.
Yep.
Like, if you like triathlon, but you don't like swimming, make it enjoyable. Like, do something. Just because no one else is swimming with fins on doesn't necessarily, it doesn't do anything for you. I mean, honestly, last night I did 3,000 yards. The entire thing I did was with fins.
Yeah.
Why? Because I enjoy swimming with fins.
Right.
It makes it more enjoyable for me.
Hey, you know what? And that's what's going to draw you to the pool.
Yep.
And I keep saying, and I've been doing this recently myself, just trying to reinforce it. Before I jump in the pool, I say, I love swimming. And then you jump in and go. And your brain will eventually convince you that you enjoy it. And so you're right. If you do things in your swim workout that you're not enjoying, it's not sustainable. And so, I love this idea of saying, well, maybe I'll take fins and go enjoy it. Yeah, that's great. I love it.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Right. The other one is I, run into athletes that I hate riding on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Okay. Or running on the treadmill. Don't do it.
Yeah. Right.
Go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's hot. Well, then run shorter.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Like, run for 20 minutes. If you enjoy running outside, even if it's really hot, go 20 minutes. It's better than not doing it at all because you hate running on your treadmill, or even athletes that don't like riding on their indoor trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's too cold and windy, but I don't like riding on my indoor trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So suck it up and go outside, get some clothes.
Right.
Right. Get a nice wind jacket and
Mm-hmm.
go outside and ride. Oh, it's too hot. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I both ride when it's 110 degrees. I've learned some good lessons. Number one, in our environment, we've talked about this before. If you stay wet,
Yeah.
you can ride in 110 degrees.
Yep. Easy. Yep. That's right. No, for sure.
So carry 3 bottles. 1 bottle is just to water you down.
Yeah. Right.
And make it so whatever it takes to make it fun for you is important, because like you said, it's not always going to be fun, but we can do things to make it more fun.
Well, and I like how you're adjusting what they should be doing when they're saying they're not enjoying it. So rather than saying, well, okay, you're not enjoying it, you can still go do that 10-mile run. No, you do a 20-minute run, or you do something. Yeah. And again, when you're done with that 20 minutes, you're probably going to feel invigorated, or you're going to feel like you still exercise that day. Because I know if I'm supposed to train and I don't train, that can be mentally disastrous.
Yeah.
And then you start going down that path. Oh, I'm not trying hard enough, whatever. And sometimes it's easier to say, okay, I don't have a lot of time today, but I'll do 2 miles.
Yeah.
No, at least I ran 2 miles.
At least you ran 2 miles. No, The other one that I like that is for specifically for, well, I guess you get it for biking, but running, and this takes a partner,
Mhm.
uh, is how run downhill.
Yeah, yeah,
Have
right.
someone pick you up.
Mhm.
Run with a tailwind. Like,
Yeah,
we get some windy days here, right?
yeah.
I can't tell you how many times with my wife that I've been like, oh my gosh, I don't want to run today. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run 10K. Can you meet me at this park in 50 minutes?
Mhm.
And my wife is so supportive. She's like, absolutely. We'll see you there in 50 minutes. And you run with the tailwind. And man, life
Mhm.
feels good running with the
Yeah,
tailwind. Even if it's cold outside, you run with
yeah.
the tailwind,
Yeah,
you,
yeah, right,
you warm
right.
up a little bit.
Yeah,
Once again, these are like little hacks that can make it more
I
enjoyable.
love it. Yeah. All right, so Bob writes, thanks for giving me permission to do the easy stuff. And oh my goodness, you have permission. Because remember, you're in this for the long haul. You're in it for a lifestyle. You're in it for years. You're not trying to make gains in weeks. And this is the funny thing about triathlon is a lot of people take the sport up when they're an adult
Yep.
because we don't do age group, we do, but we don't have age group triathlon like we do age group soccer or age group swimming or what have you. We don't have that scholastic type of connection with sport. It's changing, but it's certainly not to the extent of other sports. And so a lot of people don't find triathlon until they're out of college and they're looking for a new challenge. And man, the whole thing is just make it part of your lifestyle and enjoy the workouts, and you will eventually get to the goals that you want. But it takes a long time.
Yeah. And find the workouts you like. Like if if you're working with a coach and the coach says, hey, you're going to do 2100s, and you're like, I hate 100s.
Hmm.
Tell the coach,
Yeah.
right? Have a conversation with the coach and be like, you know what? I really don't enjoy that workout.
Hmm.
And can we come up with something different that kind of works the same energy systems, does something similar that's not that, because for some reason I can't wrap my head around liking that workout.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And then if it's a good coach, the coach will go, give me an example of a workout that you really like,
Hmm.
that you enjoy. And a good coach can work around what you enjoy doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And because it has to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be all of the time a struggle. Yeah, there's days it's like you said, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah.
But I contend that 80 to 90% you should enjoy it.
No, totally. And this is the other part of this where you take up the sport and in the beginning not only is it enjoyable but you're also seeing big gains, and so this is where you can sort of fall into a trap that you put those in that enjoyment value associating with the gains that you're making, and
Yes.
then later on you're not making those gains anymore because it's now just little incremental steps, but you still need to find that enjoyment in those incremental steps, but also in the training itself. And I think that's how you end up having that long-term success.
It is hard to be, you know, the same. You keep
Hmm.
working and you don't get any better.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But if you think about it, as you age, you're actually still getting better.
That's right.
If you're the same when you're 45 as you're 50,
Yeah,
you got better.
that's right.
You're fighting off time.
That's right.
And sometimes I think as we age, we forget that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I said for a long time, my whole goal is not to get slower as I
Yeah.
get older,
And
and
then
by not getting slower, I'm
you're
getting
winning
faster.
and
Yeah,
you're winning,
that's right. That's right.
right?
Well,
So,
the other thing that I liked what Mark talked about was, again, sticking with the enjoyment thing, which is not what we were going to talk about tonight, but
it's
it all
okay.
it all works together. Um, the enjoyment theme here was he said, go somewhere else, and I think you triggered that with talking about going and training in California. But I really liked what he talked about, where he said, go get a group together and just go somewhere and or meet up somewhere. And obviously that would be, St. George is very accessible and people getting ready for the World Championship up there. What a great, hey, I'm going up there for the weekend. We'll meet up at the reservoir for a swim and go for a bike ride, and that can be enjoyable. So that
Yeah. I actually, it's so funny. We had that conversation, and then I started looking. Oh, when is the fall tour of St. George? Well, it's in 2 weeks,
Oh,
so
okay.
I think I'm going to go do that.
Oh,
Right?
cool. Yeah,
Why not? It's two
yeah,
hours away. It's
yeah,
a
yeah,
100-mile ride. It's on the Saturday, and then I'll stay up there. I'll run on
yeah,
Sunday. Go for maybe a night swim the Friday night. Like go for the weekend,
yeah.
and just once again, it's a different environment.
Yep.
I love it up there.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, and I wasn't even planning it until we had that conversation with him. I'm like,
Yeah.
why don't I go up there?
Yeah. Right. Right.
I know you were up there last weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great place to be, and it's a great
Oh,
place
it
to
is.
train, and it's not that far.
No.
So
No, and you can get out there, you just ride and you get on some roads where it's really quiet and
yep.
just enjoy that. And then yeah, it'd be fun to put that out there and meet up with some other people, maybe for some Vale pie or
Yeah, no, I'll put out there if anyone that listens is interested in going. I'm going.
yeah,
I don't have anything booked yet, and then
yeah,
we won't put this out there. Well, we'll put it out there. I'll probably bandito the ride.
yeah, yeah.
Is it a bandito if you do the ride, you ride the course with the people, but you don't use their aid stations?
Yeah, I don't
Is
know.
that okay?
Yeah, that's always a
They're,
sticky one, but
they're
yeah,
open roads,
yeah, that's where they are.
right?
Yeah,
No,
I,
I just don't want to pay $100 to ride if I'm not going to use their aid stations.
yeah,
Because I want to practice my race nutrition.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. Yeah.
I want to do my race plan. I want to do
Mhm.
exactly what I'm going to do for my racing. So the last thing I want to do is grab a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at one of the aid
Yeah,
stations
right,
out of my
right.
on my plan.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny when you talked about that, and years and years ago, the Tri Club used to do a camp out training
oh,
session up at Colab, and
Kolob, yeah,
yeah, and I'm like, maybe we need to resurrect that idea.
I
That
think
might
that's a good
be,
idea.
yeah, that might be something to bring back and do. So,
No,
uh,
I think it's a good idea. We should really maybe we'll do an evidence-based triathlete training camp.
there you go. Oh, that'd be fun.
I think we're gonna have to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do it before Oceanside, since pretty much everybody I know is
Oh,
Oceanside.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oceanside, we're gonna have a lot of people at Oceanside.
Yeah. So there we go. The best plans come when we're doing our podcast. So we'll start
It,
looking at
it,
that.
and we always say it's the evidence-based triathlete, but really it should have just been named Two Guys Talking Triathlon. So,
Exactly. Well, John, we have a little bit of time left. Do we want to have a quick talk about this article you sent?
we can, but I think we might even want to come back and do this at a little deeper
Okay.
level,
Yeah.
because the article that I came across was an article written by Chris McCormick, I think back in like 2013, actually, if I check.
Yeah, it's an older article. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking about the depression that can happen after you complete your A race or the big race that you've been training for. And really that's a real phenomenon. And so I did a little research on depression and exercise and endurance events. And this might be something that we want to come back.
Okay. Yeah, let's come back to it.
Yeah, and dive into a little deeper because it is a real phenomenon. But just quickly, you do a big race, and we talked about this with Mark.
Yeah.
No big decisions at the end of the race.
Oh,
Take your credit card,
needs to
put
be
the credit card away.
it needs to be a mantra. The only big decision you get to make, and this is important, is you go to the roll down and you take a world championship spot,
That's right.
right? That's the decision that you get to make.
That's not what we're talking about, though.
Other than that,
Yeah.
other than that, no big decisions. It's so funny, right? Because we all did Oceanside last year, and then man, everyone made that big decision the next week.
Yeah.
Everybody I knew signed up at the early bird sign up for
Yeah, yeah, right. I think I convinced you.
I think you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I liked what Mark said was when you do have a bad race,
Yeah.
after the race, you're going to come up with a solution, but that's never the right solution. And so what he said something like, what you're going to come up with at the moment is not the right answer. And that's what that's what led him to talk about his 87 race, and that it really took him a while to sort of absorb what happened, really take a step back and analyze it and then say, how can I move forward, as opposed to, even me at my race and letting the competitor run away from me. In the moment, I'm like, oh, I just need to run more. No, that's not what it is. That's not the solution.
It is not the solution.
No, and so it takes a little bit more critique and trying to figure out what's going on. So, you're not going to come up with that right answer right after the race. And so no big decisions after your race, good or bad.
Yeah, and once again, if you're working with a coach, a good coach will listen to your post-race analysis and won't add a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Right. We'll just kind of absorb it, listen, and then a couple weeks down the road, let's talk about it now. Like, what are we going to do different?
Yeah.
Or what are we going to do the same? What are we going to, if I was coaching you, John, like, and you wanted to run faster.
Yeah.
Right. You're right. That's not the answer. Oh, just run. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
We need to be more strategic about it. And like, do we need to run more? Maybe we do. And maybe we do a run block. Like, for a short amount of time, we don't just add running, but we decrease your swimming, we decrease your biking, and then we do a run block, but we do it strategically. We don't, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do that 100 run challenge on Slow Twitch. I'm going to run 100 days straight. Right. Really? Okay, you can do that, but you better not be riding and you better not be swimming as much as you are. And so I think that this was, I took a lot away from that too, because I know that historically I've done that.
Yeah.
Like, and I've like had something disappointing happen. And I'm like, okay, well, starting tomorrow, this is the new thing we're doing. And I go all in on things, and I think I need to do what he's talked about and take a couple weeks at least. But what I'm planning on doing now is writing down my thoughts.
Yeah. Right.
Like after the race.
I do that.
And then put it away.
Yep.
Right. And then let it kind of percolate in my brain for a couple of weeks and then relook at it. Say, does this make sense?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great exercise. I do that after each Ironman. I write things down as soon as I can, because the emotions change over time, and I want to capture that emotion in the moment. Because it's important, and sometimes it's a way to vent. I had a terrible event at St. George, but it really wasn't a terrible event. I did what I could do that day, and actually I'm okay with it now, but it took me quite a while to come to a point where I was like, you know what, that was okay. That was success based upon where I was fitness wise. And you learn from that. You say, well, I really should not be towing the start line unless or if I tow a start line with X fitness and this is what you're good at, that's the performance you're going to get.
Yeah, it's so funny because and we haven't really talked much about this, but I've been kind of injured for a while, and this will be my first race next weekend. Since that race in St. George, I didn't race all summer. I had a hip procedure done. I've been slowly bringing things back, and I started to think about like, what can I do? Like, where am I at?
Yeah.
And I've been really realistic with myself about what I can actually do next weekend based off of the training I've done.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And I'm not where I was 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I am where I am today. And that's okay.
Well, and you mentioned this during our talk with Mark, and that it's a bit of maturity or maturation of as an athlete, where you get to that point where you can say, this is okay, this is what I can do today, and maybe 2 or 3 people are in front of me that normally wouldn't be, but that's okay. It's not, that is not,
because it's not about them.
Me. That's right. It's not defining me. Right.
Like I enjoy doing triathlon. Like, why did I do all this rehab and all this work I've done, and the pain that I've dealt with along the way? It's so I could get back to doing triathlon. It wasn't so I could get back to like winning a triathlon.
Yeah.
I
just enjoying it.
I'm going to enjoy it. And once again, for people in my age group out there next weekend, if you pass me, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here for me.
Yeah.
Right. And win, lose or draw, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like
Yeah.
for me, it'll be, I honestly have been missing racing
Yeah, right.
and I just want to race again.
Well, and that's what I enjoyed about Cocapelli was just going and, seeing people that we know, seeing their accomplishments. There's some pizza afterwards. That was good. Just enjoying the environment and it was fun and it was nice to be back out there and doing that. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it takes a long time to get that maturity. Like I wouldn't have had that
yes.
maturity
Mm-hmm.
5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have went for a race where I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like
Right.
100%, or I wouldn't have, like, I just signed up this week. I wouldn't have signed up,
Mm-hmm.
knowing where my fitness is right now. I wouldn't have done it.
Well, and the
Yeah,
other thing that I like that we talked about with Mark was just that mental skill that you build up, and even when you're not 100%, but you're always going to give 100%. And I liked how he talked about he was really proud of that one race he was talking about where he stayed fully engaged,
yeah,
and although he was walking 100% that he could do. And when he was running 100% of what he was going to do. And that's a great sort of mindset to develop is being able to stay fully engaged. And when I raced at Cocapelli, that's what I was really happy with. I walked away and like, you know what? I did what I could do. My time was my time, but I really felt good about where I was, and that was a good sign that I'm feeling like things are coming back fitness wise. So.
and John, did anyone come up to you and say, "Oh, I thought you were faster than that or better than that"?
Nobody,
No,
nobody at
nobody.
all. That's right.
No, nobody. Right. The only person is in your brain, like you saying, "Oh man,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
good, like I could have ran faster." No, you couldn't have.
that's right.
Like you
That's right.
ran what you
No,
could
that's right.
run.
That's what I could run that day, and it was what
And
it was. So,
there, and
yeah, yeah,
like and I think this is maturity as
yeah,
athletes and wisdom of athletes.
yeah.
And for people that are listening, like your time does not define you,
No. Mm,
and your successes don't define you. It's I've done some really good consistent training over the last 4 weeks,
mhm,
5 weeks, and I'm proud of that. Like
yeah,
that I've done it and I've done it smart and I haven't re-injured myself
yeah,
so far. And this is just a little marker of where I'm at.
mhm,
And I think that that was the same with you last week. Like you have your last race of the year is in December, and you're building towards that.
yeah.
And even if you have a little pitfall along the way, it doesn't define you.
No, that's right. No, and again, I'll keep referring back to what we talked about with Mark because I took notes. He said, you should have this feeling of fulfilled, that you're fulfilled with exercise. And if you have that feeling, that's what's going to carry you through for long term, and that's what's going to help you get to the goals that you want.
Yeah, agreed. No, John, I think honestly, this is such an inspirational talk tonight.
Yeah. Well, and so was, talking with
What
Mark,
was
I
that?
really felt really good after that in terms of just the material we covered. He
Well,
was
that's when I signed up for the race. Was that right after we talked?
there you go.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Like, so that inspired me, because
yeah,
I was on the fence about it,
yeah.
and it inspired me. And
Yeah.
so, if that talk inspired people, that's great. If this talk inspires people, that's great too.
Hmm.
Because we're so fortunate,
Yeah, we
and we
are.
we forget how fortunate we are, and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
the percentage of people that can do this,
yeah, right. One of our
or
oldest
made the
triathletes.
decisions to do this.
Yeah, no, totally. One of our oldest triathletes, Ed, he keeps coming out and he just keeps hammering away, and I love it. I talked with him at Cocapelli and I said, Ed, I want to be you. I want to be that oldest guy
Yep.
racing. So it is really that's neat to be able to do that.
Yep. I agree. So, what's on the agenda for this weekend for you?
Uh, got to make sure Laura's bike is all ready. Got to make sure we're.
Oh yeah. So you're leaving to Kona. So live from Kona next Friday night.
Yeah, yeah, we should be able to. I think we'll be on the ground at that point. I think. I don't know. We're time travel,
I
so I'm
think
not
you
sure.
travel on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's Friday, actually, Friday
is it?
morning. Yeah, I
Okay.
know. Yeah. And then we time travel and, yeah, we're, yeah, so I'll double check what time we'll be there. But yeah,
Okay.
hopefully I can be on the Lanai.
So you got to make sure everything's all ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, this is her big race,
Yep.
and so yeah, and I know what the nerves are like, uh, getting ready for a big race like Kona. I'm not doing it. I'm Sherping, uh, and so it's sort of neat being on that side of it and trying to be supportive and trying to find, the right way to help the athlete, do well. And a lot of it is just having confidence that your fitness is there and, all the mechanical stuff we'll take care of and enjoy it.
So no big ride for you this weekend?
I'll probably do, yeah, well, yeah, I think she's got a ride tomorrow. So
Making
I'll
sure.
do that with her. So I think it's like a 4 hour ride or something. So
Nice. Nice. An enjoyable 4 hour ride, hopefully.
we're going to Boulder City.
Oh, nice. That's such a
Yeah,
good ride.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Weather's great right now. So
I know it's getting a little hot though. I was thinking maybe it would stick in the low 90s. Now we're looking at like high 90s this
uh,
weekend. So maybe I'll find myself back at Mount Charleston again,
yeah, yeah.
in the cool altitude.
You
And
love
I
that.
love that. I love that when it's hot here, ride my
Yeah.
bike up there. It just feels so
That's
good.
wonderful. That's nice that you've got that gateway. You're right at the gateway there.
It's so interesting though. Like I've been up there, I think 4 weekends in a row. And other than people that I know personally,
Hmm.
which is just one or two people, there's nobody out there
Yeah,
riding.
right,
Like
right.
last week, I saw one person that I knew, and I knew she was going to be out there,
Mhm.
and one other person that was riding. And I actually stopped him, and I'm like, "What's your name?"
Yeah.
We started chit chatting, but it's so weird. I'm out there for like 5 hours, and nobody's out there. I'm like, "Why are people not up here riding? It's so good.
Yeah,
It's cooler,
yeah,
you know." And I get it. It's a challenging place to ride.
yeah, right.
But then if you go down to Blue Diamond, there's like hundreds and hundreds of people riding,
Yeah, there is.
and the traffic's getting bad out there.
Mhm, mhm.
Just go up to Mount Charleston.
Yeah,
I want more cyclists at Mount Charleston, so like more people driving their cars recognize that's a place that we're
oh,
riding.
yeah, right, right. That's true. That's what we need, and good, good safety with cars seen and being respectful of
Yep.
cyclists. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's the tough part. But
All right. Well, John, hey, thank
good
you so much.
talking.
That was a great Friday night.
Yeah,
Hope everyone enjoyed it. Bob, thank you so much for your comments, as always. Those
yep,
were great. And we'll see you. Well, I don't know if I'll see you. Maybe we'll see you at work next week. If not, have a great trip to Hawaii, and we'll talk to
yeah,
you.
yeah. Thanks. Yeah, we'll talk before that. All right, all right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
John.